My name is Alex Bolowich, and I am the sports psychology specialist for the club.
Perfect. Can you elaborate on what that actually means?
Yeah, so my specialty is around mental performance. So I help athletes with creating the bridge between their potential that they can do in a practice and their performance that they can do in a game.
What does it mean for you to be working with Queen City Mutiny?
Giving back to the club, giving back to the, youth facility, youth system. I was a player myself growing up, and in hindsight, having the mental performance pieces were something that we didn't have. And as the game evolves and you start to see what's going to get the competitive advantage in the future, that was something that really intrigued me, and to be able to give it back to the players that I was once in the position of, and actually help them with, navigating that field so early on is quite sweet. So I really enjoy it. It's just fun for me now.
Okay. What are some setbacks? You said that you played. What are some setbacks from when you played that helped fortify your mentality?
So the setbacks that I had were a little bit different than what I would say is the typical experience for some. And there was a variety of them that came from all angles, and it ended up completely derailing my game. And going from injuries, 9 broken bones, 2 dislocations to my left shoulder, a couple of concussions, 3 surgeries. It was really taxing on the body, but I had no idea how much I was actually taxing my mind as well. Factor in being undersized, about 5 inches shorter than the average goalkeeper. And on top of that, being cyber stalked and cyber harassed by these anonymous people on Facebook that were threatening me with these really heinous type things. And all in all, the pressure of being a D1 goalkeeper. My dad was a very prominent figure in the college soccer world, and I had a last name attached to me with high expectations. And what I didn't know was, through all of those acute and chronic stresses, there's a window of tolerance that we all hit within our nervous system. And as soon as it taps out, then your nervous system starts to override your control. It starts to override your mechanics. It's going to shift you into a state that is going to be done to protect you. And that state is what we call a freeze state. And so the freezes that I had were in my body. My hands started to feel like bricks. My feet couldn't cross over properly. It almost felt like I was in someone else's body. And I couldn't do the very basic mechanics. I started dropping shots, started dropping crosses, and it confused me. As a goalkeeper, you're supposed to be consistent and reliable, and I wasn't. So naturally, I didn't play, didn't get the position. And I tried fighting with myself to get out of it. I tried thinking my way out of it, tried motivating myself or reaffirming myself, training harder, doing more reps, but nothing worked. And it derailed my entire career. And the confusion turned into anger, the anger into hostility towards myself, towards my team. And I was just angry at the world because I had trained so hard to get there for years. I'd sacrificed so much, and it was almost like, this is my return. This is what I get out of this. Like, why do I deserve this? In a way, I started to feel sorry for myself. I never figured it out until I graduated. And it was when I went back into my master's in sport and performance psychology that I learned more about the nervous system, how it operates, how much control you really don't have over that, and how you actually need to see a specialist and do some practices to actually undo that. But those setbacks now, I mean, as painful as it was in college, I don't regret it for a second, because I've been able to help over several hundred athletes with their mental blocks, with being able to perform under pressure, overcome setbacks with ease. And it's only because of that experience that I'm set up now to be able to do that. So I don't have all the regrets for it. And in a way, I believe that was what I was supposed to do, and it was supposed to happen.
Awesome. What are some ways that a player that plays at the MLS next level can do to mentally prepare for a game or a tournament or practice at that?
Yeah, it's a great question. if you have to do a lot to mentally prepare for a game, you're not doing enough throughout the week to mentally prepare yourself as a competitor for what works for you. So that's standpoint number one. When you get to a game, you want to be able to let go. You want to be on autopilot, but your autopilot is being conditioned in the week. And that's also being conditioned not just through the training, but how you're working with yourself, how you're training yourself to refocus, how you're controlling your emotions and regulating your intensity and your energy. And if you're dialed in on that process throughout the weeks, then come game time, you can take your hands off the wheel and things are going to go pretty well for you. But if you're looking at figuring out how can I on this game day prepare, the first step is you got to really get good at knowing yourself. Biggest trap that I see a lot of athletes fall into is they hear or try certain techniques and maneuvers that they saw online from, like David Goggins, Kobe Bryant or something, and they try it on themselves, and that's fine, that's good. But that would be equivalent to walking into a library, just picking out a random book and hoping that's a good book to read, right? Everyone's unique and different, and you really got to know yourself in order to really get clear on your preparation. But first thing that anyone can do is ask themselves these 3 questions, which is, when I'm at my best, what am I focused on? Like, what am I naturally focused on? Where is my mind going? Is it leaning into the moment? Is it leaning into what I can do, what good's going to happen, how excited I am, right? Like, what am I focused on there? When I'm at my worst, what am I focusing on? Am I focusing on what could go wrong? Am I focusing on, what other people are going to think of me, the consequences if I don't do well, or my playing time is going to be, taken into consideration, all these things. And then the third one is, okay, what's the barrier between the two? Like, what is creating one version over another? And what a lot of athletes will do is they'll point to the external world, their circumstances, and say, oh, it's this coach, or oh, it's this tournament, or this, team, or whatever. And that's what's dictating my focus. And right there is a clear indication that you are no longer in control, that your environment controls you now. And between the circumstance and your experience, your focus, if more external things are dictating your internal world, that's a clear map that you need to dive in and do some investigating as to why, and then figure out how to flip it so that nothing outside of you can dictate what goes on in you. But typically, we're looking at what are we focusing on? That's like the center point.
Okay, got it. You mentioned before that you had broken, I think you said 9 bones, right?
Yeah.
What can you say to players going through tough injuries? I know we have a few players right now in the club that are going through injuries similar to that. What can you say to players like that on, keeping their head up and, getting through it?
That's a great question. First thing I would do is start looking up who are the people that have done something similar or gone through worse, and watch them, research them, listen to them, right? Even if it's someone in a different sport, but ideally if it's a soccer player, great. And let's say it's an ACL tear, right? Find someone who's gone through 2 ACL tears, listen to them. They're a wealth of information, and they'll also they'll talk about the process, sure, but they'll also talk about the meaning that comes from that. And ultimately, this is what brings out impressing people. That's what we're always focused on. We want to be that guy, right? We want to be that dude. And it's all about impressing people. It's all about showing us and showing them what we can do. And I would like to think about that less in an outcome based and a talent based way, statistics, like that's all surface level stuff. That's fine. But what really resonates with the people around you is how you go through a process of struggle. And that's what they resonate with. And you have a perfect opportunity to be an influence to the people around you, to be an inspiration, to show them the optimism, to show them the belief, to show them the dedication, the discipline to your process, not knowing what that outcome is going to be, right? There's always that question mark of how am I going to return? And then what's that process of returning going to look like, right? Figure that out when you get there, right? Make the most of each day, create the small goals of each day. Am I really maximizing my recovery? And am I living out in a way where if there was a video camera watching me and everyone else saw me go through my recovery process, what would make them proud to watch me and what would inspire them? You start living out day to day by that, you're going to have a pretty good time to recover.
That's awesome advice. Another question. You also mentioned that you got some like almost cyber bullying, almost cyber hazing. Um, how'd you overcome that? Because I know social media is a huge part of being an athlete,
Mhm.
and a lot of these athletes are on social media and may get some harm like that.
Mhm.
How did you overcome that?
Yeah, well, in this particular context, I mean, social media as a whole is a whole different conversation in and of itself. But this particular context, um, always be think about the digital world is more dangerous than the outside world. That's number one. Already start assuming that. And I know it sounds a little bit paranoia in a way, but I would rather be over prepared for something like that than under prepared. The way I did it is, and this is something that anyone who's struggling with anything, whether it's an injury, whether it's just finding yourself in your sport or a new team, new environment, new culture, whatever, not knowing how you're going to transition out of the sport. One thing that I know is not only common with my experience, but many, is if you have a strong faith and connection to something bigger than you, and not saying it has to be religious, but it could be. Um, I wasn't really much of a like, devout Catholic or anything like that, but I believed in like Christian values, and that's how I was raised. And when I was at Creighton, it's a Jesuit school. So these people that were harassing me for 2 weeks or threatening me with some things, and I couldn't go to public safety because they were tracking me. They knew every step that I was taking. They knew every place I went to in the day. And they said if I went to the athletic department, public safety or whoever, like they would come after me. And so I was too scared to do that. And I said, the only thing I can really do here, like after 2 weeks of just checking my shoulders all the time, wondering where these guys are, whoever they are, I said, I'm not going to let them torture me like this anymore. So I blocked them. But when I blocked them, that Sunday at midnight, I went to the church on campus and I prayed my absolute lights out. And that's pretty typical when people are going through such traumatic experiences. That's when they actually get connected to their faith again. A lot of us kind of disconnect, and it's only in times of distress where we really find that connection again. Um, and that was my moment where I was a complete shell of myself, bawling my eyes out, asking forgiveness, asking for help. I thought I had done something wrong. I wasn't quite sure what was going on, but that was the only place I felt that I was safe to go. The only place. And I was prepared for those people to do whatever they said they were going to do because I had blocked them. And I just asked for protection. And for whatever reason, I don't know if it was divine intervention or not, nothing happened after that. I don't know if these were just a bunch of jokers that were just really trying to stress me out and trying to, do some more mind game thing. But, for me, it was coming back to something that is so much bigger than myself. And it's like, this is like my final hope, if you will. But it doesn't have to be that way if you keep your faith connected to whatever it is that you believe in your spirituality, and keep the sense of purpose and why you're here, what you're doing here. You keep that close to you, then whenever you go through struggle and challenge, you can always lean on that, and it'll help you get through.
What is, you said at some point as well that, you had lost your spot.
Yeah.
Um, I know a lot of players, it gets in their head when, they're not getting much playing time or anything. What can you say to players like that who aren't getting playing time and, their confidence is going down and that?
Yeah. And in a lot of ways, it can be a roller coaster because you're so used to playing. And then you get to another level and then you're not playing anymore. It's just a shock to your system. And if you've conditioned yourself to see yourself a certain way based off of how much you were playing, how well you were playing, you were the big fish, you were the guy in this little small pond, and then now you go somewhere else and you start to recognize, I don't really have that status anymore. It will be a shock to your system. And there's going to be an element of humility that you're going to have to meet yourself with. In those moments, there's three things that you can really do. One, maximize every single day, when you really boil it down to what is truly in your control and what is going to have the greatest influence on you getting that time that you're looking for, it comes down to what you are doing every day, stacking days. And that's from the habits of taking care of your body, taking care of your sleep, right? Getting extra reps on the ball, whatever, maybe doing film review. You have to lean in on what is 100% in your control. And the next barrier to that is, well, I don't really want to spend all that extra time doing this. I got classes, right? I don't care. Make it work, right? Make it happen, because you're not the only one who's a student athlete or, in high school who is going through this that is willing to carve out time and create time to make that happen. Those that do will end up taking that position, and you will still be on the outside looking in, and you'll still be wondering why you're not there. So you have to make changes. There's a great saying that goes, whatever it took to get you here is not what it's going to take to get you there. You need to level up your process. Whatever you were doing before is not going to be enough anymore. And you need to know that. And you got that humble pie right now. So one, focus on what's in your control and really dial in on creating a system that is day by day going through that. That's how you build trust. That's how you build confidence. And then when you actually get that position, that's when it cements. Step number 2 is, it's normal to question yourself a little bit. It's normal to doubt yourself a little bit. We're human beings, right? You're going to start feeling less of yourself, maybe small, whatever the emotion and the experience is. But the goal then is to feel that in its entirety as quickly as possible, and then embrace the situation that you're in, and then come back to, okay, what is it that I need to do now? So if you're feeling, some people feel a little bit insecure or shameful, if they feel a little bit doubt or hesitation, that means that in their world they feel like they're weak, or they're not super powerful, super strong, got put on this front. It's like, you should feel disappointed, you should feel upset. That's good, you need that. But what you do with that is going to be the ultimate dictator of things. And then last is leverage your resources. We talk about what's in your control, but talk to teammates, talk to coaches, and also help them, by the way. Like, when you stop focusing on you and everything about you and being like, my playing time, my this, my that, and you start focusing on, how can I help my teammates? How can I help my coaches? How can I help this person in practice? How can I help them from the bench? Star in the role that you're in, and then work for the role that you want. So be that guy in your position. You don't have to be the stud on the field to be that guy. You can be that guy in any position. That's the mark of a hero. So be resourceful by leveraging your teammates, get them out to train with you, leveraging your coaches, do film review with them, but also give back. When you stop making it about you, make it more about them, your performance goes up too. And you take the pressure off your shoulders and just do what you can with what you have. Everything else will take care of itself. So
awesome. We got tryouts coming up in a few weeks. What can you say about that? Any player looking to try out, take their play to the next level, What can you say to anybody trying to try out for Queen City Mutiny?
Yeah. What I'm going to tell them is not what they're going to want to hear. I'm going to start with that. And it's, if you're unsure of yourself going in, right, there may be a little bit of nervousness around what's going to happen, a little bit of excitement. That's normal. But if there's this true unsureness about you, you haven't done enough yet. You haven't convinced yourself yet. You haven't done the reps yet. You haven't really done the extra training. And that's a start. Like, coaches say it all the time. But when I'm talking about from a mental level of a conditioning, there's a difference between thinking your way through something and knowing your way through something. And if you have to try to convince yourself or try to convince someone else, it's not convincing enough already. Right? You have to develop such a body of evidence, so much proof, that there's a knowing inside of you that I'm competent and I'm capable. And that's really what confidence is about. It's all about competency. And that's proof through actions, not through words, not through what you think you can do, but what you've proven that you've done. Now, with that, you match up with the belief that, okay, I may have done a lot. I may have that proof. I may have that body of evidence. Now I'm going toe to toe with a bunch of guys that have done the same thing, and we're all in this same space. Why would I be the one to be chosen? It's like, well, you could ask yourself that, or you could ask yourself, well, why not me? And start to focus more on being my best as much as possible, going into what's in my control, And if I don't make it, it's no one else's fault but my own. That is probably the hardest thing for anyone to accept. But I remember when I was 12 years old, I tried out for what was Castle at the time, it's now NCFC. And my father was the head coach of the UNC Tar Heels men's soccer team. Every year he was getting players from Castle. Every year. And so he knew these coaches very well. And I wanted to go try out for them. I wanted to go make their team. And I'm 12 years old. Tryouts last a couple days. I get in the car after the last one, and I'm laying back. My dad's phone goes off. He answers it, and he goes, uh-huh. Okay, I'll let him know, and I'll get back to you with his decision. And so I know it's for me. I know that that was the call. So I'm waiting to hear what he says. And my dad just hangs up, and he goes, you made the 4th team. And I'm sitting there thinking I made the 2nd team at least, right? Like, I'm feeling pretty good about myself. I'm in a way, like, I'm kind of delusional at that point. You kind of have to be delusional to an extent. And I was so upset. And I remember telling him, I said something along the lines of, like, they got it wrong. That's not right. You know, and I was so upset with their decision. And before I can even go further, he caps me and goes, no, you got it wrong. They got it right. You're on the 4th team. What do you want to do? And that's the level of parenting I got, and that's the level of parenting that's needed, because it's accountability and it's truth and it's a matter of fact. And it's now, what do you want to do with it? Do you want to accept the position? Do you want to try out at Greensboro, which was my next option that I was trying out at? And these setbacks are necessary. You need to be rejected. If you really want to be a professional, you really want to go to college, you can't get there without being rejected, period. In fact, the more times you do get rejected, probably the greater chances are that you're actually going to get there if you keep returning with fire. You look at everyone, Tom Brady, Michael Jordan, they all had the same story. So if you get rejected, you're on a good path. You actually have a wonderful opportunity to turn that into motivation and fuel, get chip on your shoulder, get to work, and prove yourself. And therefore, you can already rest assured that even in the worst possible scenario, in my preparation for this, if I get rejected, good, I'll take care of business. And if you have that mentality, you're going to be dangerous. That's how it is.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Alex.
Yeah,
Thanks for being here.